Welcome to the Casino Rama Grill Room. I'm Gareth Wheeler. No panel today, just one guest, and I'm pleased to say he's a Canadian icon. He's an Olympic bronze medalist, a renowned artist and painter, and heck, he's even on Canada's Walk of Fame. Toller Cranston, welcome to the program, and I should say welcome back to the city of Toronto.
Thank you very much. I don't think I can compete with your voice.
You can't? Sure, you can.
It's so professional.
Is it really?
Yeah,
because I'm told I don't speak properly. It's too raspy, yada, yada, yada.
It's good.
I appreciate the compliments. So we've got this interview off on a good note here. Toller, you now live in Mexico, of all places, and part of it's got to be because of the weather, correct?
No. I live in Mexico because the town that I live in is due north of Mexico City. It's 3 hours north. It is probably the most famous town in all of Mesoamerica, Latin America. It's a 15th century town founded 50 years after Columbus. It's an international art center. And when you say the weather, you're thinking like lying on the beach kind of weather.
Well, I'm thinking not Canadian type winter type weather.
No, it's an odd place. It's idyllic because the weather in San Miguel virtually never changes. It is always the same because we're about 6,000 feet above sea level. So why the artists are there is because it's perfect working weather. If you were to go and say work in Vallarta or something as an artist, there's 6 months of the year which are impossible. But let's sort of go into the Mexican thing just a smidge.
Yeah, because what I want to ask you is, I mean, you're an icon in this country. I'm friends with a whole lot of people that have been or are in the figure skating community. And it's just kind of surprising to me that you aren't living up here full time and taking advantage of who you are and what you mean to figure skating in this country.
I don't know if this name rings a bell to you, but Sylvia Sweeney. Do you know who that is?
I recognize the name.
Okay, Sylvia Sweeney was the niece of Oscar Peterson and sort of kind of an Olympic volleyballer, I think, and does things. I think was the head of the Canadian Film Board, or whatever that is, National Film Board. And she said, and this is a very important thing, is that Olympic greatness only really scores points if you use it as a stepping stone to do something else and better. And the people, not me, but the people that have experienced it and then continue within the figure skating world and go from being a gold medalist and a performer to teaching skating for 10 hours a day in a freezing rink have lost the game. There's no future in figure skating, so much better is to get as far away from it as you can. Okay, because you see a lot of former athletes, you know, try to keep the dream alive per se, but you see there really being a ceiling there and there's no point of hitting that ceiling. Instead, go pursue another endeavor, and obviously for you it's art. Yes, it is, and always has been, but if one is to look at, I would use Olympic gold medalists within figure skating as an example, or many Olympic gold medalists in various sports. The high point, the climax, the orgasm is standing on that podium as the Olympic gold medalist, and everything post that is going straight down. Okay. Very few people. Look, I mean, Ben Johnson might not be a good example. Brian Boitano, I mean, Mark Spitz. The list goes on. You've got to go somewhere else. You've got to do something else.
Could you make the argument that those athletes and some of those names, the people that stay within the sport, maybe just enjoyed the sport more than you did? Is that a fair assessment?
I'm not sure if I enjoyed the sport at all. A la Andre Agassi in his book. Of course, the act of skating, sorry, you're too tall and too old to do it as a figure skater, but it's really tantamount to kind of flying. It's the closest thing to flying, because you skate, speed, and jump. The act of skating is a wonderful thing, and it was a huge and great pleasure. The skating world and the politics that are still rife within that world make the whole thing extremely unpleasant. And now I could actually say that I am today embarrassed that I ever was a skater.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a strong statement.
It's
because
true.
You were an innovator in the sport.
I said that was then and this is now. And my greatest fear and like a concept that would traumatize me would be out of my voice saying, don't you know who I was? I'm very much in the now.
Okay, so why are you so embarrassed? What is it about figure skating today that makes you so embarrassed?
Well, figure skating, period, because it was, and we don't really want to beat the dead horse, but it's sort of theater of the absurd. I mean, this is too painful to even mention. You're too young to sort of know this, but in the Olympics that I was in, you had to do, I mean, I can barf if I actually remember it, but you had to do sort of human geometry. Those were like circle eights and figures, and you did those like meticulously and earnestly for 5 hours a day. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You had to trace. Well,
that is up certain people's alley, though. Correct? Your mind's more eclectic. You're an artist, right?
But the problem with that was, I mean, as absurd as that was, that's like I said, being like a human compass.
Sure. You're like a program, like a robot, right?
Well, ridiculous. I mean, the truly intelligent could never have done it. Only the retarded were good at it. But the problem was really, and this is what ended that, Kurt Browning would have been one of the last like known skaters to have done that. I think it ended in 91. Yeah, 91. But you see, if you're a Russian judge, and at that time there was the Soviet Union, so the Soviet Union was like the governing body. So you had Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Russia. If you didn't toe the party line, you were like living in Siberia as a judge. So as a Canadian with one little judge judging me, how could you compete against it? And you were mentioning just before the interview about Peltier and Soleil.
Yep.
They sort of ended something and then began something, which was a new marking system, because the collusion and the corruption became very obvious. And I had actually thought in San Miguel, so many years later, watching them in Salt Lake, I said, I think I have to sue the International Figure Skating Union because I want all my tapes reviewed, because the Soleil Peltier thing was confirmation that what they did to them is what they did to me. But then I said, sort of thought, get over it.
I really appreciate your honesty, and I really dig that about you. We have a lot more coming up with Toller, including his artwork that's on display here in Toronto for the next 2 months, and the figure skating industry today. Toller, nice work, buddy. We'll be back with more right after this.